I'd like to call to order tonight's public hearing for Plan and Zone Commission, Tuesday, June 5th. I'd like to ask anybody that has their cell phone turned on to turn it off because it can affect our audio recording. Roll call, please.
Connell.
Present.
Hepner.
Here.
Ingram.
Present.
Johnson.
Here.
Kelling.
Here.
Lammers.
Present.
Manus.
Here.
Med.
Here.
Quinn.
Here.
Reinhardt.
Here.
Tallman here. We have a full house, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. First item of new business on the public hearing is case number REZ 18-06, the request of Tim Schaefer of Schaefer Automotive Service LLC, DBA Dales Service Center, for rezoning on 4.38 or 4,380 square feet, 0.10 acre of property known as 1909 North Zenith Avenue, located north of West Locust Street and east of North Zenith Avenue. The rezoning is from R3 Moderate Density Dwelling District to C2 General Commercial District to provide parking and storage for the associated business Dales Service. Wayne?
Actually, what I've done, since both 1806 and 1807 are the same petitioner, the same type of rezoning, I've combined the report here.
That's fine.
Obviously, at the full commission meeting, you'll have to deal with each one separately.
Correct.
So if you want to read the second one, that would...
Okay. Second item would be case number REZ 18-07, request that Tim Schaefer of Schaefer Automotive Service, LLC, DBA Dales Service Center, for rezoning on 6,000 square feet, 0.414 acre of property known as 3816 West Locust Street, located north of West Locust Street and east of North Zenith Avenue. The rezoning is from R3 Moderate Density Dwelling District to C2 General Commercial District to provide parking and storage for the associated business Dales Service. Wayne?
Okay, these are two cases that are interrelated, but they are separate because they're two separate pieces of property. Dale Service Center, 3830 West Locust Street, is located in the little corner here. Look at each individual property first. R3 Moderate Density Dwelling District. The current land use, and this is the 2035 plan, shows it as residential general. That also allows for neighborhood type commercial uses. When the original property was rezoned in 2015, as your report will indicate, the comprehensive plan indicated this as a commercial neighborhood, the strip along West Locust Street. And that would be the same here. This is the 3816, basically separated by a property from the business. This is the proposed kind of sketch concept that the applicant has indicated, what he would be doing with those properties. His current site is fairly tight, and as business grows, he has problems. These are some photos. This is 3816. This is 1909. Both Google and Bing Maps, very helpful, actually. And that's all I have. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Wayne. Am I correct to remember that there is no parking on North Zenith?
There is a no parking for a portion of the area, and then beyond that there is.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Lammers.
I don't know why I have it in my memory, but don't the business or the zonings have to be connected?
That's why they're two separate cases. And
Okay.
no, they don't necessarily have to be connected.
Okay, thanks.
Any additional questions at this time? Seeing none, thank you, Wayne. Would the petitioner like to step forward and speak on his project? Please identify yourself and let us know what's on your docket.
Hi, I'm Tim Schaefer. The whole point of doing this project is basically to create more parking. We're real tight there, have been for years. This will give us additional parking spaces for the cars that we have. At minimum, I want to say, depending on how we park and how the layouts of each plot turn out to be, anywhere from 19 would be probably the minimum amount of spots. I think in my possession, most generally on average each day, I have about 20 cars in possession, 15 to 20. I think this will alleviate some of the parking problems and some of the congestion we have on Zenith and on the corner of Locust there. The other thing that will be helpful for me is we can do shipping and receiving from Zenith rather than Locust. You know, for example, we receive tires every day, and there's a semi truck that comes and blocks one lane in Locust Street, and it creates a nuisance. And we try to do as quickly as possible and do the best we can to keep it smooth and keep it safe. But I think they'll be able to go around behind my building and be able to bring the tires in, and it'll be easier and less congestion. Additional parking. I think the other thing would be great is to get rid of a house that's kind of an eyesore on Locust Street. The house I purchased a few years ago, it was condemned and it's in bad shape and it's not even uninhabitable. I think another reason for doing this would be good is I can move some of the stuff like our dumpster and tires, and I can have storage for that behind my building, and it's not such an eyesore for that as well. So.
Thank you. I noticed it says storage on here. Is it your intent to store vehicles for a long period of time, or is this just customers in and out, day or two type turnaround?
Yeah, day or two type turnaround. Storage was not on my list. It's basically just for parking for our customers' vehicles, and that's it.
And for your own employees?
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions of the petitioner? Commissioner Kelling.
Thank you. Mr. Schaefer, the third, in between your business and 3816, there's a resident. Is that the one you're talking about that you purchased and is in deplorable condition now? Or is that a different property owner?
That's a different property owner.
What's his outlook on this? I mean, it would seem to me to be kind of reasonable for you to pick that property up.
It would be great if you can make it happen. I don't know. I don't know what his story is.
Okay, looks like from the records he's an absentee owner.
Yes,
Okay.
I believe so.
And
He's very rarely around. I actually maintain the sidewalk because it's just as easy in the winter to snowplow the whole thing with my four-wheeler and do both houses. You know, I don't mow the grass or take care of anything else, but I just take care of it since we're right there.
On 3816, is there more than one property that would have to be demolished?
No, just
Okay.
the one house.
Okay, and then right behind your business on Zenith, the property there, do you own that?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't own the 3822, I think, which is between me and 3816 on Locust.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Scott, I know at the neighborhood meeting when we were there, we discussed that property, and he said he has tried to get with that owner. It's in extremely deplorable condition. I wouldn't be surprised if it wouldn't be condemned fairly soon. I know we talked to Alderman Dunn about its condition and what the city could do to maybe try to get the owner to step up to the plate. So there could be some activity on that property.
And I realized the house on 3816 was foreclosed on before I bought it, and it was left in really, really bad shape. And I realize it's not a very nice property, and I think getting that one off of the street of Locust will make it a lot nicer.
Commissioner Lammers.
Mr. Chair, can you summarize the neighborhood meeting, pros and cons?
Well, there were no neighbors that showed up, so it
That's helpful.
it was fairly quick. We stuck around for a half an hour thinking that maybe somebody would show up later, but nobody showed up. We walked the property. Alderman Dunn and I walked the property and looked at the condition of 3816, 3822, and agreed that both of them should come down, but 3822 obviously isn't in his ownership, but there were no neighbors, although I think Wayne mentioned at the meeting that one or two neighbors might be in opposition of it. I don't know if anything formally was sent in, but they did not appear at the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. Quick question. If the property between the properties does become available, is it your intent to also acquire?
Absolutely.
Okay. That's it.
Any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you, Tim. We'll close the public hearing. Oh, wait a second. Are there anybody in the audience that would like to speak in favor of the petition? Please step forward.
I don't want to speak in the favor.
That's fine. Hold on. Let me ask for in favor first, and then anybody would like to speak in favor? Would anybody like to speak in opposition? Please step forward.
Okay, my name is Georgia Dugan. I lived on Zenith for 28 years. My husband and I brought this property thinking that we're going to profit on it the years to come. Well, it doesn't help when now he wants to rezone and put storage and all that behind his building. I'm all for that 3816 Locust Street. He can do whatever he wants there. But this is 1909 on Zenith. They have made a monopoly and bought 5 houses up behind the business. All those is rented out. We've had problems in the past with his renters. I'm not for rezoning that property. I don't want to look out on my patio and look down the street and see storage containers and tires and cars. And as far as saying about cars stored on the street, right now on our street, there is a van that's been there since last Wednesday between 12 and 12:30, and it's still there. So, and in the past we've had problems with parking on our street and that. My husband had a head injury. I had 2 skull fractures, bleeding of the brain, and in 2015. 2016, I had him in the hospital 11 times. 9 of those times I had to call an ambulance. Where do they park? In the middle of the street, because all that parking's taken up. Now, Tim's been really nice about not parking in front of my place for emergency vehicles. I've asked him not to. But at first, when I went up and talked to a secretary about parking, I got a snotty remark like, well, it's a public street. It may be a public street, but I pay taxes to the middle of that street. I've had tow trucks pull up on our street 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning dumping cars off. And they would sit 2 or 3 days or sometimes more. I'm not for that. Besides that, the back of that building, for safety issues, the side on Zenith is too close to the street. For them to pull out on Zenith will cause an issue because there's cars from Locust coming around the corner. And they don't stop. They go around that corner fast. I'm not for the 1909 West Locust Street. I want to keep my neighborhood the way it is. I mean, I own an acre there, almost an acre. We have deer, in our back acre. We have turkeys that come up, all these wild animals and that. And I'm afraid once they start rezoning that, being they own the rest of the houses, and then they get the 3816 and the Mass property, they're going to start tearing more to make it bigger. So I'm not for that 1909. I want my neighborhood. I lived there for 38 years, and I want to keep it.
Can I get your address, please?
2018.
Thank you.
And I know Mr. Cooper that lives across the street. I've spoke to him, and he does not want it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Tallman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wayne, just for clarifications, if this zoning was to be approved, wouldn't both north sides of these parcels, since they would be the more intense zoning, be required to put up some sort of buffer or screening?
That could very easily be a condition, yes.
Is it not? I mean, wouldn't it be a requirement now? If it was a C2 abutting up against, is that all R3 back there?
More than likely, there would be a fencing requirement.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Lammers.
To the petitioner, if we were to approve this and the intent was to take the cars off of Zenith, would there be an eventual growth of using both of these locations plus Zenith as you grew your business? I mean, are you cleanly trying to do this to get your traffic off of Zenith?
Yeah, I would love to not have to walk down the road to pick up cars, and it would be so handy for us to have them easily accessible right behind the building and right next to the building. It would be a lot better for us, and that's not my intent to park on the public street anymore.
Okay, thank you.
I would just like to say I'm not intending to use it for any storage or any, it's parking. Access, the driveway access to 1909 coming off of Locust Street, the driveway for the house right now, it probably wouldn't change much into the property. So it's the same difference pulling into 1909 as the resident has right now as what I would have. So as far as cars speeding along, yeah, I mean, you have to be careful, but it's no different than it is now.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Would anybody else in the audience like to speak in opposition? Seeing none, final call for questions, commissioners? Seeing none, we will now close both petitions, and they will be back in front of us Tuesday, June 19th, with recommendation from the CPED staff. Thank you. We will move on to the regular meeting. Roll call, please.
Connell,
Present.
Hepner,
Here.
Ingram,
Present.
Johnson,
Here.
Kelling,
Here.
Lammers,
Present.
Manus,
Here.
Med,
Here.
Quinn,
Here.
Reinhardt,
Here.
Tallman here. We have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Tallman. Report of city council activity.
Nothing new to add.
Secretary's report.
Second.
All in favor of the secretary's report as written, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it will stay as written. Report of comp plan committee. Matt?
I'll just give an update on the zoning ordinance update process. We're hopeful that a draft of both the ordinance and map for public consumption will be put on the project website no later than June 15th. We'll let it stew a bit, and then probably towards the end of June we'll have a series of public workshops that will be more or less just Q&A sessions that will probably be in 4 different locations and times. But again, the project website is www.davenportzoning.com, so stay tuned there.
Thank you, Matt. Zoning activity. No old business, new business. Commissioner Med?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our first case is case number ORD 18-04, request of the City of Davenport to amend Title 17 of the Davenport Municipal Code entitled Zoning by amending Section 17.29 in part by clarifying the Design Review Board's consideration of encroachment permits as a recommendation only. Staff recommends the Plan and Zoning Commission accept the listed finding and forward case ORD 18-04 to the City Council with a recommendation for approval, and I so move.
Case number ORD 18-04 has been moved and seconded for discussion. Staff?
Just a quick update on actually the title pretty much explains what is happening in this ordinance amendment. It's really just a clarification that the DRB does not make decisions with respect to encroachments, but they do advise the council. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, any questions? Would anybody in the audience like to speak in favor or against ORD 18-04? Seeing none. Roll call, please.
Connell,
Yes.
Hepner,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Kelling,
Yes.
Lammers,
Yes.
Manus,
Yes.
Med,
Yes.
Quinn,
Yes.
Reinhardt,
Yes.
Sullivan, yes. That motion carries.
Okay, our second case, ORD 18-02, ordinance amending Title 17 to incorporate a zoning component to promote and create a commercial identity for the Rockingham Road corridor through design and use standards. This text amendment will include a map amendment for the area along Rockingham Road from John Fell Drive in the southwest and to Marquette Street in the northeast portion of the corridor. City of Davenport is the petitioner. Chapter 17.6 of the Davenport Municipal Code allows for text and map amendments. Staff recommends the Plan and Zoning Commission forward case number ORD 18-02 to the City Council for approval, and I so move.
Second.
Case number 18, ORD 18-02 has been moved and seconded for discussion. Staff? Sarah?
Good evening. I'm going to pull up a quick PowerPoint here for you guys. Which one did you put it in? This one? Okay, got it. Okay, so just to give you guys a brief review of what we discussed last week at the public hearing, we are requesting a rezoning of the Rockingham Road corridor from Marquette Street on the east to John Feld Drive on the west. This has been an inclusive process with a stakeholder group identified by Alderman McGinnis and Alderman Dunn of about 20 individuals, the purpose of which is to, where possible, lessen the intensity of use along the Rockingham Road corridor to really enhance that area and create a commercial corridor district. We discussed last week how there will be both use classification changes and design standard changes. This is the current zoning that is along that area, and this is the proposed zoning for that area. So this is part of a comprehensive overhaul of the new zoning ordinance. So the new classifications that are in the proposed zoning ordinance in front of you will be congruent with the classifications in the new zoning ordinance that will come forward to you later on this fall, that has been worked on with our CPED staff and with Camaros, our consultant there. So we've undergone a thorough public process. We've had a handful of stakeholder groups. We've had a neighborhood meeting and a public hearing. Last week, this proposed ordinance is largely supported by the folks that we have talked to and the project participants. And we believe as a staff that this will be an effective tool to enhance that corridor and really lessen the intensity of use so that it can really become a neighborhood commercial corridor. So we recommend that the Plan and Zoning Commission forward this case on to City Council for approval, and I am available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Sarah. Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Limers?
Could you just verify one more time for me that the existing homes and businesses will be allowed to function as they are today, and only upon the sale of the property will the design standards need to be placed into?
The design standards will not come into effect just merely by sale of the property, but if they were to be doing any sort of work to the property that would trigger it. So just because the property is sold does not necessarily mean that they need to come into requirements with the design standards.
But those today can continue to function
Yes.
as they are today?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Would anybody in the audience like to step forward and speak either in favor or in opposition of the petition? Please step forward, identify yourself and your address.
My name is Jim Lycum, and I own the property at the corner of Smith and Rockingham. And I've just got a little concern on the use. Now, right now, I've owned this property for 41 years, and it's zoned M1. Okay, now the two properties, my property and the one to the west, which is where that Dollar General is, both of them under the new would be zoned C2. Now, directly to the west of that, Rich Metal built a warehouse out to the street. Okay, that's I-1. Then if you go farther west, the old Eagles Food Store is also zoned I-1. Clear down, whether it's the old abandoned railroad tracks that go in there. And then everything to the east, of course, is Ralston Perrine, and that's heavy industry I-2 down there. Okay, what my concern is my property is an old Texaco gas station, but over the years I've sided it and put a pitched roof on it, and it sits right out there in the corner. Okay, it's always been, I had a car business there years ago. Master Muffler's been in there. I've had an auto repair shop. The detail shop was in there. My understanding, even though you would be grandfathered in under C2, none of them are viable. And that's all that property was it's ever used for. It's too small for anything else. You know, the next door property, I mean, it could be hardware stores, anything, but I got, you know, it's always been a shop, and that's my concern of why do you just have the two picked out as C2 and everything to the west is I-1, light industrial, and I'm M1 right now. So I have concerns, even though you're grandfathered in, you know, I've got it leased out again now, but I'm not getting any younger. One day I'll want to sell it. You know, and I got Rich Metals behind me, and then everything, you know, Alder Company down Smith Road. It's industrial down there in that corridor. So that's my concern. You know.
Yep. Would staff like to comment?
Sure, I'll just add, you know, we've had a process where we have, you know, gone literally parcel by parcel looking at what we thought was the appropriate use. We have spoken with Mr. Lycum directly. He believes this property should be C2. It's our position that, again, in the long term, that C2 is the appropriate use here. Obviously, the decision is not going to be made by this body, can be reviewed again by council, but we think it's in the best interest of the city to zone the property C2. And I will add that even just today, we signed off on the business license for your new tenant. That would be trailer rental and tire sales. So,
But again, to discuss what Sarah said, the business can continue to operate as it is, even if he sells the property. It can continue as is, as long as it doesn't remain vacant for over a year, correct?
that's correct.
Just want to make sure we all understand that.
Yeah, and that was my only concern. I mean, just hypothetically, what, you know, under a C2 zoning, what if I would sell that and Rich Metals would all of a sudden have interest, or Alder Company wanted to drop site on my corner? That's what concerns me. Could I sell to them? Because I'm just, you know, I'm small there, but it's right on the corner. I'm limited by what that is prepared to use it for. So
It's my understanding you could. Would staff like to comment on that?
Well, sure. I mean, this process does not mean that property cannot be rezoned for you know, for good reasons in the future. So, if there was an industrial expansion, I think we'd have to approach that as it came up.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you. Any others?
no, I mean, that was my, you know, I just want to make sure that, I mean, it's like one day I'll probably sell that, you know.
Sure.
Like I said, I've had it for 41 years, but I'm getting tired.
Understood. Understood. Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak either in favor or opposition? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Hepner,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Lammers,
Yes.
Manus,
Yes.
Med,
Yes.
Quinn,
Yes.
Reinhardt,
Yes.
Tallman, yes, and Connell.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Tallman. We will move on to subdivision activity. Thank you, Commissioner Med.
I've got two.
Commissioner Hepner.
We've got two cases tonight, Mr. Chairman. Case number P 18-03, request of Adam Sites for a preliminary plat, Pheasant Ridge subdivision on 43.27 acres, more or less, located west of Elmore Avenue and north of East 53rd Street, containing 64 residential lots and 17 outlots, which contain the detention area as well as the floodplain for Pheasant Creek. Staff recommends the City and Planning and Zone Commission accept the findings and forward case number P 18-03 to the council for approval subject to the 7 listed conditions, and I so move.
Case number P 18-03 has been moved and seconded for discussion. Wayne?
Mr. Chairman, before the record, I will be abstaining and have asked Commissioner Connell to take care of the roll.
Thank you, Commissioner Tallman. Commissioner Quinn?
I will also be abstaining from this case.
Thank you. Commissioner Kelly?
I will be abstaining also.
Thank you. Your turn, Wayne.
Okay. This is the preliminary plat. You had a 3-lot final plat a while back that dealt with the potential sales for the property, and that's why that was a final plat at that point in time. Now they're coming back, and the larger of the lots, that lot 1, is what they're looking at now for the preliminary plat for residential development. Currently, it is agriculturally zoned. There is a proposed R2 low-density dwelling district zoning. And the property is designated as residential general with a small strip of commercial retail on it. Probably for clarification, until the zoning moves forward, and if it is to approved, this plat will not move forward. If that zoning fails, then this plat will not move forward because we can't do residential development on agricultural land in the way that it's being proposed. So just kind of clarify that. This is a preliminary plat. Number of lots here, the extension of the existing street system. This basically mirrors the concept plan that was submitted with the rezoning. These were the notes that were attached to the plat. And the preliminary plat does extend the existing street system, provides for continued residential growth of the Jersey Meadows area. The plat does conform to Title 16 subdivisions, that's the preliminary plat section, and the plat conforms to the comprehensive plan. And these would be the recommendation with the conditions. They're pretty straightforward. If there are any questions?
Commissioners, any questions? Seeing none.
I do need to add one thing. I think it's in your packet that the preliminary plat doesn't lock the city into anything. It basically says this is how the developer proposes this land to develop. The city basically says, yeah, it looks like a good idea. You can proceed with a final plat. And that's all it says. So we're not locking anything into this at this point in time. Now, when a final plat comes in, it does need to match to a great extent what the preliminary shows. So that's just for clarification.
Thanks for that clarification, Wayne. Commissioners, any questions of staff? Seeing none, would anybody in the audience like to step forward and speak in favor or opposition to the preliminary plat? Seeing none, commissioners, final questions? Roll call, please.
Johnson.
Yes.
Kelly abstained. Lammers.
Yes.
Venus.
Yes.
Mid.
Yes.
Reinertz.
No.
Connolly, yes. And Hepner.
Yes.
Passes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Next item.
Next item, Mr. Chairman, is case number F 18-04, request of Pine Partners LLC for final plat Wedgewood 10th edition on .92 acres, more or less, located west of North Division Street at the 5600 and 5700 blocks, which is proposed to contain 4 lots. Staff recommends the Plan and Zoning Commission accept the findings and forward case number F18-04 to the City Council for approval, and I so move.
Thank you. Case number F18-04 has been moved and seconded for discussion. Scott?
So this previous plat had access to the rear here between the two locations. However, there are access points in 3 other locations. And so when we got our technical review back, there were no comments and there was no concern about access to the property to the west at this point. So if you can see on this zoning map, right here is where there is no lot platted. There's 2 locations like that. The other one is over here. And so that would allow for, it was intended to allow for access to the rear, but now they're going to develop 2 lots in each location. And here's the plat. So 2 lots here and then 2 lots at the other access point. Our findings are that the plat does conform with the comprehensive plan. It does promote infill, and the proposed facility facilitates the sale of the proposed property for future development. And we recommend that it be forwarded to council for approval.
Thank you, Scott. Commissioners, any questions? Seeing none. Does anybody in the audience like to speak for or against this petition? Seeing none. Commissioners, final questions? Roll call, please.
Kelling,
Yes.
Lammers,
Yes.
Venus,
Yes.
Med,
Yes.
Quinn,
Yes.
Reinhardt.
Yes.
Tallman, yes. Connell,
Yes.
Hepner,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Tallman. That would conclude the zoning activity. There are 2, 4, 6 items of future business for you to take a look at before our next meeting. Communication time. Does anybody in the audience have something on your mind that wasn't on the agenda? You could speak now. Seeing none. Any additional business, staff?
I'll just mention, I think it's great to see a full commission up
Thank you.
there. We've got a lot of cases coming down the pike this summer. If you know that you're going to be on vacation, even in advance, letting us know ahead of time will help out. But again, appreciate the attendance.
As do I. I appreciate the full house. Any additional comments, Commissioner Kelling?
In regard to that, Matt, I'll tell you now I'll be on vacation next meeting.
There you go. So noted. Thank you, Scott. Anything else?
Move to adjourn. Second.
All in favor of adjournment, signify by. Opposed? None? Good. We are now adjourned. Thank you for your attendance. Please drive home safely. Please vote if you haven't. I would appreciate it.